Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer, your Nashville soccer podcast. Normally, this is a podcast, but today it is a funeral. Today, we bury the 2025 Nashville soccer season in a sad sort of fashion. Of course, I am here with my funeral director, which is me, Stephen Robinson. Of course, we have Clay Trainum playing the organ for the funeral, and Valer Shabilla, who will be stuffing the bodies and decorating them with makeup and such. The embalmer, that one, that's Valer Shabilla.
I
Welcome.
don't know that Steven knows how funerals work.
The only sort of way for me to know how funerals work is that I'm like I haven't watched all of Bob's Burgers, but there's that one episode with like the guy who works at a funeral home, like the weird guy. I think that he has a name. Maybe it's more than one episode. I don't know. Again, I've
It's
only watched
Mort.
like a little bit. Was
Is
it?
it Mort?
Yes. So there's an episode that goes kind of into like his life and what he does at work. And that's all I can think about. So thanks for putting that idea into my head, Steven.
Look, I'm here about starting things off in a positive note. So if funerals make you think positively, then congratulations to you.
Here's a positive note to start. You're getting an early local soccer update. Congrats to the Vanderbilt Commodores and Lipscomb Bisons for qualifying for the NCAA tournament after winning their conference tournaments on Sunday. What a great weekend for Nashville soccer.
Both for the women's
except
team?
for the big obvious one.
Clay, is the Lipscomb for women's or men's?
For the women's, yes. The men's tournament hasn't happened yet.
Got it.
You were there this weekend, weren't you, Clay?
I was, but usually we ask Valer about his weekend first. So, Valer, how was your weekend?
Yeah, he would be pretty upset, actually. Valer, how's your weekend?
Yeah, I'm not getting out of my trailer until you ask me about my weekend. No,
this is the Valer we see off mic. He
absolutely.
He's got a bigger ego than Steven. I know that sounds made up, but it's absolutely true.
Giving you a glimpse of what happens backstage.
That's why I get so frustrated.
It's good. It was a little frustrating going out Saturday morning and watching Arsenal draw and not win, and also Arsenal concede a shot on target and concede goals. I mean, what are we doing at this point? But this is fake outrage. I'm not actually outraged, but I do want to say I went to where we watch Arsenal matches, and in memory of maybe a Nashville soccer legend is a strong word, but
no, I would even call it Nashville soccer
he's
legend.
Important figure.
An important figure of Nashville soccer is Alan Bishop, who started the Nashville Gooners, the Arsenal branch in Nashville for the fans. And I know some people are not Arsenal fans. Maybe they're not Premier League fans that are listening to this, but I do want to say, like, he single-handedly not single-handedly, but with the help of others in 2012 or late 2011, started this Arsenal branch for people to get together in Nashville and watch soccer. And it's not something that was happening as there were a couple of branches back then. I don't want to say like Arsenal were the first one or anything like that, but it wasn't as it is right now. And it became what it is right now. And he had, through his work and what he had done for the community and for creating that branch. And me personally, I have a personal story with him. So I was doing a college story back in my MTSU days for a college class, and he was either the first or second person I've ever interviewed for a story in my life. And it was about the branch, and it got me closer to Arsenal and soccer in the community of Nashville. And I just want to say thank you to Alan, and you know he's a legend for me, obviously, and then also shout out to his wife Christine, who's been a great help for us at the Arsenal branch, but also she brought some of his jerseys, and I actually have one of them, so it's gonna be another sad way to start, but it's more bittersweet than sad for the episode, really.
I don't think that you can tell the story of soccer in Nashville without talking about the people who ran the Premier League groups in the era kind of in between the Metros and Nashville FC. Alan, one of those guys, of course. You've got Kevin with Manchester United. We all know the Slapes, who are both Everton and Liverpool fans. I mean, Kyle with Chelsea, Wes with Tottenham. Like there are these people that were kind of around and maybe not necessarily involved fully in the Nashville FC side of things, but we all knew each other, you know, in the early days of trying to find places to watch the sport in Nashville, a city that used to be quite difficult to find a place to watch these games. And those served sort of as like grassroots launching pads for Nashville FC and Nashville SC and the stadium fight, because these were the only consistent soccer fan meetings that were happening around the city. And so, like, while, you know, Alan might be directly working with 100 or so people over the course of a season with Arsenal, or, you know, this predates me by a couple years, but like, you know, 5 or 6 people with Everton or whatever, you'll find out a lot of those people that were in those pubs, you know, those are the people that were also the folks on the ground, you know, pushing for the stadium, becoming founders of NFC, you know, supporting the USL team, creating fan groups. A lot of these fan created groups came from, you know, the assembly started kind of out of the Manchester United group of people. So like, and Arsenal as well. But I'm just saying, like, a lot of these groups come from these Premier League clubs, and it's real hard to not include them when you talk about the history of the sport in Nashville,
Well, yeah, and even
contemporary at least.
from an Arsenal perspective too. I mean, Arsenal easily has the largest following in Nashville. I would say specifically from a Premier League group standard, and a lot of that is because of what the work that Alan did historically throughout. Like, I know Valera's converted a lot of people into Arsenal fans just by going to Fleet Street, you know, on different times. You
Terrible
know,
human being.
it's one of those things where I'm envious. You know, I love my Chelsea group, but I'm envious a lot of the times about what that Arsenal group has been able to do, especially because of what Alan has done. So when I heard that he passed, I was extremely sad. You know, but I know it was probably bittersweet because you guys are carrying the work, you know, carrying the load, and have done it, you know, for a lot of time. So yeah, my weekend wasn't as exciting. Well, I was on a plane. Um, so my flight got canceled. I was one of the 10%, which let me tell you, it was a lot more than 10%. My God, it was a lot more than 10%
Hey,
flight.
hey, Steven, how much are you loving the government at the moment?
I don't want to talk about it, Clay. Clay, let's not talk about it, Clay. Clay. We can't go down more in ratings, Clay. Can't have our star ratings go down more.
All right.
Can't do it.
Clay, what did you do this weekend?
Uh, Honestly, I watched a lot of sports, a lot more sports than normal. It feels like, but I finally got to watch Everton play on the weekend, which was great. Of course, they're having their fourth Monday game of the season already next week, so they're right back to playing on weekdays after this, which is so annoying. But you know, the Hoosiers won. Hoosiers are 10-0. One of the greatest catches you'll ever see in a game. If anybody wants to go look up the end of that Penn State game, I know Steven saw it because this is the
God,
Big
it
Ten
was
podcast.
such a good catch. One, that game against Penn State should not have been close, but it was.
Yeah, hey, that's
But
what happens when you're in a good league. And then I also got to watch, uh, you know, that Nashville SC game. But more importantly, we had family in town. Went back to the Country Music Hall of Fame. Hadn't been there in a while. That was a good time, and got to go to a very cold Lipscomb soccer complex Sunday afternoon and watch the Lipscomb women win their second consecutive conference tournament championship. And it was a really, really good time. 3-0 win for the Bisons. And I, you know, very fun. They dominated. It was very cathartic after watching Nashville's loss to see a team in Nashville just dominate another team and to score a goal that probably shouldn't have counted, because Lipscomb's first goal in that game was 100% absolutely a handball. I don't know how it was missed, but you know, it was what it was, and it was a completely deserving scoreline. They dominated that game,
I think this
and
is
Vandy
also
Vandy won as well, which was good for them, and they won in penalties against LSU for the SEC title.
I think this is going to be a good segue to talk about Nashville Soccer's match against Miami, but we also do need to acknowledge on this show that today is the 50th anniversary of the shipwreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I think we need to mention that.
Please, God. Oh my God. I learned about all this last night, and it has every time I think I've cracked American culture, specifically white culture, let's be honest here.
Yes,
Something like that comes to my desk, and I'm just like, what?
it was a
Anyway.
ship carrying ore that sunk in Lake Superior, still unknowingly, but the 50th anniversary is today.
All right. Well, shout out to Gordon Lightfoot while we're here. And
Okay,
there's
guys.
a more important anniversary that we haven't acknowledged yet on this show. A big
What's that?
number.
What's
A
that?
big number. I mean, in your mind, it's already passed. But in Steven, in your mind, it's already passed. But in Valera and I's mind,
it is Pharma 300, as you may have seen from the title of this episode. But unfortunately, it's not a great celebration for Nashville SC. I think as professionals that we are, we should just like mention it once and move on, and now talk about the game, because it's been like 10 minutes and we haven't mentioned Nashville SC. So how about Nashville, guys? You guys want to talk about it, or
well, I was trying to
avoid
make
it?
I don't think people listening to this really want to talk about the game.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of got a point. I mean, look, it is weird because of the fact that now I feel like even like a couple days past this, you know, I'm kind of getting over the fact that the way we lost still sucks, right? The way that we bowed out of this tournament still of the MLS Cup tournament still sucks. It's not great. Now that I've had a couple days to process, it still feels like a good season to me. But of course, now we're going to get into a lot of the, you know, opinions of, you know, people are already talking about player roster decisions, who we think we should keep, who we think we shouldn't. Like, where are you guys at when it comes to, you know, lamenting what happened, to celebrating what happened, to moving forward into 26 at the current moment?
He's asking for a vibe check, I feel like. And
that's exactly it. Yes.
I mean, I feel good. It's a successful season. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about the specifics, but it's a successful season. You know, it's not, more often than not, your season's going to end losing to a team that you're probably not better than. And Nashville season ended losing to a team that might win the whole thing. So it's hard for me to get too terribly worked up about it. I mean, I think that the second half of the season exposed a lot of the things that were papered over in the first half of the season, and it to still have a successful season in what they like to call year one of a multi-year rebuild is a good thing. They got a trophy. It's all good. I'm not too terribly upset about it.
Yeah, I think it's something we talked about. I do think what kind of leaves a sour taste in a lot of Nashville SC fans' mouths is that it's you know, it's Miami first and foremost, which I think in itself it's an event and an occasion. And then the other thing is that it ended 4-0 without Nashville really putting up the fight. And I think that might be a little bit of a, you know, like Steven said, you know, in a week or two, or, you know, definitely by the start of next season, I think people will reflect back at 2025 as the greatest season in Nashville history thus far. Fairly so, I think. But right now, as we look at it, it's a bit fresh, and it's kind of, you know, it's one of those things where you would have you know, you would have wanted Nashville to at least be a bit more aggressive, to at least get a goal. I mean, Miami doesn't really get clean sheets, so it was kind of a disappointment to go out that way. And I think that kind of led, that and the Messi factor and the Miami factor of it all kind of added an extra layer to where if Nashville maybe exited against, I don't know, like a Columbus, for example, or even a Philly after beating Philly 3 times during the season, I think it would have been less of a blow.
It's the it's not just that it's Miami, it's the capitulation that happened in these games, right? It's the last
Yeah.
game of the regular season where Nashville's in a spot to win the game and then just gets run over afterwards. Then you've got just a poor setup in the first match, and Nashville gets for the most part smacked. Then a really good performance in the second game with some controversial moments. And the third game start is a poor start, and I do think that the end result probably stays the same. Like, I think Miami wins, but I do think, and what's fresh in a lot of Nashville fans' mind is if the Sam Surridge goal counts in the 46th minute, does that change the way that the game plays out? And I think that's a real question. I think that's a really honest question, because then the doubt's in Miami's head, and we see that they can also quite be a little bit frustrated at times with the way things are playing on the field. And so I think someone in the Discord, so shout out to everyone in the Discord, referred to it as the sliding doors moment. Like, if that goal counts, does Nashville fully get back into it? Does the intensity pick up from Nashville? Do they find a second goal? And I think that that's a fair question. But at the end of the day, over the course of 3 games, Nashville was the better team in over the course of maybe 60 total minutes across 3 games.
Well, and I think that's the tough thing from my end, especially in that I had a tough time watching it. We didn't get to celebrate Nashville at the end the way that we did throughout the rest of the season. We didn't get to see that Nashville that we saw win the Open Cup in our final match of the season. We didn't get to see Hany Mukhtar and Sam Surridge absolutely dominate, a match in some way, shape, or form. We didn't get to watch a defense that has conceded the least amount of goals on away trips this season so far. We didn't get to see a BJ Callahan masterclass performance. Over this time. We just didn't when it comes to, the way that the team, we didn't get to see that tiki-taka lovely passing in the first half of the season that we did against Miami. And I think that's a tough thing for me, where I don't know if it's just because of the fact that we didn't have the pieces ready to make it farther, or if it was just a really good Miami team. I think that's it's still an unknown to me. And I think that's the frustrating part about it from my end, is that I've seen us play competitively against Miami before, even at decision day. We saw it happen. And then to go and end it in that way, I think that's still what is frustrating on my end.
I think you bring up a good point, and we're getting into the game at this point, so I'm just going to go ahead and talk about game 3.
Well, let's just get into the game specifics.
Yeah. Game 3 specifically, you looked at a Miami team that, just plain, to put it plainly, played better without Luis Suarez in there. And I know that's a crazy thing to say for one of the best strikers to ever play. But that is the truth, is that when you had that extra player, first of all, Miami changed their shape with a 3 at the back. Busquets kind of dropped into that center back, defensive midfielder position. If you remember, Gary Smith had Dax McCarty do that a couple times in his Nashville career as well. And then that extra man in midfield really pushed Nashville. And then they had a striker that was pressuring every Nashville player instead of just kind of sitting there waiting for the ball to get to him. And even when Luis Suarez was pressuring players, he wasn't doing it as well as Allende and sorry, I forgot the other guy's name. But getting into that Miami game, the way Miami came out at home was different than how they have done it previously. And they really suffocated Nashville and kept them in their own box. And Nashville just couldn't get the ball forward. They couldn't progress the ball to save their lives. When they went long, Miami were there to cover because they had that extra man, the third center back, right? Whether it was Busquets or the other two. And then when they were trying to kind of pass the ball amongst them, Nashville, or try to dribble one, there would always be a second Miami player that would be there before support can get there. And I think from a Nashville soccer perspective, this show will always look at Nashville first and what Nashville could have done better. But I really think a huge credit has to be given to Miami here. And Mascherano, who, to be fair, has gotten a lot of flack from, even myself and whoever covers this game in America. But I think he played it well. He played it right. And at the end of the day, quality showed. And yes, overall, Nashville, player for player, will not beat Miami in terms of quality. Just the fact that they have Messi and Alba and Busquets alone, quality wise, they are better than any other team in MLS. It's as simple as that. The only thing Nashville had going for them into this series was playing as a team and playing as a collective to beat those individual moments, especially with Miami's defensive woes. So when Nashville couldn't score even a goal at Miami, and it took them 94 minutes in the first game to score their first goal, that's when the game is you're not going to win like that against Miami. That's why I was saying, like, if it was Philly or something else, I don't think this plays out the same way, even if they are a good team, right? So I think what it came down to is Nashville taking their chances, not just in this game 3, but in this entire series. Nashville didn't take their chances. If Nashville played to their best ability, I don't know if they would have advanced, to be honest with you, but it sure wouldn't have been outscored. What is it, 15 to whatever? Like, it's insane. The amount of goals they let in is insane. And I think that goes back to those defensive errors that we talked about in game 1 and slightly in game 2. But I think it just goes back to those defensive errors again.
Well, and not even just defensive errors, offensive errors as well were very prominent, throughout this time. We watched the dominant Sam Surridge specifically in, the entire season being able to put these chances away. He couldn't even, the chances he did have, he didn't bury, and he just didn't seem like to have that separation that he did previously. I really love putting faith in Matthew Corcoran, in that spot over there, but that pass that he had specifically in the back end was horrible to start that run for Messi's first goal. Yeah, it was a culmination of all these things that we kind of saw throughout the season that were some mistakes, some problems, some consistency issues, kind of like you said, Flair, all come together in a horrible just game 3 in Miami. And even with a fiery start in the second half, I think we can all say thoroughly that might be one of the worst referee decisions I've ever seen in my entire life of watching soccer.
I think if we're going to say that happens and that is a foul that is worthy of overturning a goal, then there are going to be lots of goals that are disallowed from here on forward. Because I don't know. I mean, I couldn't even tell if he really got contact. I
don't even know if he did.
So many times. And if he did, okay, cool. But why would you reward deciding not to defend anymore when it's only you and the striker?
Like that's rule changing VAR BS that happened right there. Like that bad.
Well, the thing is he blows the whistle immediately, so they don't even go to VAR.
He doesn't. He doesn't. No, the whistle doesn't blow until the ball is across the line.
Okay.
Which is why,
honestly, I couldn't hear it. Yeah.
On the broadcast, I mean, they were saying the same thing. It's like, go and review it, and which is, so he explicitly waited for the foul until the ball crossed the line. Which in that case, then why do you not give VAR just didn't see
that
a
was
clear
the only reason. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I had to watch it on mute because I was somewhere else. But like, I was just sitting there going like, well, clearly that must not be reviewable or something because I don't have the context of the guy talking. But I was just like, okay. So I've been trying to imagine if I saw it on the other end, right? And the only thing I can come up with is like if there is contact at speed will bring you down. And sometimes you need to draw attention to it. But if it's Walker Zimmerman and Messi, and Walker Zimmerman tries to play for a foul call that is slight instead of defend, I would be absolutely furious with Walker Zimmerman. So that's the part that just kills me because like, why would you reward that sort of conduct? And the problem is, and what I said on Twitter, and this is what I'll say. All right, if it's a foul, it's not a foul, whatever. There are lots of things that are being said about MLS and this Miami team. I do not believe that there is some conspiracy to give Miami goals. I think that MLS refereeing is not to a standard that could pull that off effectively. But when you make calls like that in big moments, you aren't exactly beating the allegations that a lot of neutral or anti-Miami fans have. And I think that's the best way of phrasing it. I do not think that there is some underhanded thing to give Miami everything. I think that there are referees that aren't particularly good necessarily, that may be drawn in by the celebrity or the moment and aren't up to the things that are required in those moments. And in those moments, they tend to lean away that feels biased. I do not believe it's intentional, but when you see something like that, there are a whole lot of people who are both fans of the league and not fans of the league. They're going to point to it and say, what is this? And I think that that's fair. I think that that's fair.
Yeah, I think one thing we learned from this series is that both sets of fans think that referees are against them, but I think the overarching point here is that the referees are not good enough. I think that's what you come up with, because if the journalists and media folks are saying it, if the fans are saying it, and even the broadcasters are saying it during the game, then there's clearly something wrong here. And I think it's an occasion thing that kind of adds to it, like Clay was saying, because it's Miami, it's Messi, eyes are on them. I think it adds to it. But look, we've given referees enough time on this show. I think this is enough.
MLS is very fortunate that didn't happen in the cup final.
Yes, for sure. and Nashville were very much not up to par aside from that disallowed goal. Nashville didn't play their game. If they had played their game and they had been at their best, they wouldn't have needed that goal to beat Miami. And losing 4-0 is the biggest indicator of that, if anything. I will say, I think Nashville have a pretty big problem when it comes to their defense and their individual errors with their defenders. When you look at a guy like Walker Zimmerman, who's had a really spotty season, he had a really unfortunate injury to start with, came back from it, had another injury, went to the USMNT for a little bit, came back, got another little injury here and there. It's just been start-stop for his season all along, and I just don't think he's anywhere near. Okay, not anywhere near. He's not near where he was, like, even last season, to be honest, or the season before. And I think he's played such a huge part because he's the club captain, right? So that's number one. Palacios getting injured right before the game, huge miss, because I do not think Jack Mayer was supposed to start that game. I don't know when they learned that Palacios can't go, but when they learned about it, I'm sure it was a huge blow because Palacios, even with that goal he gave up in the game one against Messi, where he kind of, dropped, even with that, he has had an incredible season for what he was bought to do and has been doing well so far, I think. But he's not immune to problems, right? And then you get into Jack Mayer, who's the third the third sort of center back there in that senior grouping. And this season was also up and down for him. He played a lot more than the other two. He was, well, not a lot more than Palacios maybe, but still more than Palacios. But he still wasn't up to par. And I don't mean that as in like, oh, Jack Mayer's done, because center backs do come out a little bit later sometimes, and get better as they go with age. But it just, for somebody who is making as much as he is, who he's a TAM player, making, I think, 900,000 or so, you just expect better performances and expect better consistency. So him not being able to do that, I think those three are the big ones. Obviously, some other issues on the sides and whatnot, but I do think that's a big thing going into next year, and also for Nashville SC to figure out, because I don't think it's a structural thing. I think it's more so individual errors that keep occurring, especially in this series.
See, and this is what episode 300 is about. We're coming full circle here. Valera's been hating on Walker Zimmerman since day one. So now we're coming back to episode 300 here with Valera hating on Walker Zimmerman again. This is the best. Like, I'm so glad that we've done this over the years, that we've just been able to come back and roll full circle. So thank you, Valera, for setting that up. It's really kind.
I refuse your premise.
Valera on air.
I refuse the premise of your take there. I am not hating on any player individually.
But look, the reason I bring that up, because it's time to laugh. It's time to share joy. The funeral for this 2025 season is over. We need to talk about the good parts. We need to have our celebratory time. We need to have our fruit punch in the VFW hall talking about the good times and all the good things that have happened and what's coming future down the line. And we're going to do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Of course, please make sure you do check out 615 Soccer as well.
I would just like to point out that Steven said it's time to get positive, and Valera immediately got up and walked away.
Also, check out 615soccer.com. Spell it out. You may be thinking, the season's over. I don't need to worry about Nashville soccer news. That is completely the wrong answer. You have to understand that during the off-season time is actually when Valere and Ben and everybody are working a ton, because that's when a lot of news and stuff is coming through when it comes to roster decisions, off-season stuff happening. It also gives us the ability for more interviews and all that type of stuff. So please, if you want to be a part of it, for the rest of the, till the end of the year and going forward, please subscribe to 615soccer.com. We'd love to have you a part of it. Also, pharmasoccer.com. If you want to celebrate having an Open Cup by wearing a U.S. Open Cup Haver shirt, there's still stuff to celebrate for the end of the season. So go to pharmasoccer.com, check out that merchandise. Okay. So with this loss to Miami, it does officially mark the end of the soccer season for Nashville in 2025. There's no more soccer to be played. Kind of crazy to think about, especially for this. Has this season felt like it's been fast for you guys or slow? I'm curious. And has it felt like the season has gone by slow or quick?
I think fits and starts. I mean, Leagues Cup and the weird breaks that happen because of the schedule makes it really feel like it goes like it's a slog at certain points. And these last month has seemed like it takes forever because you play the same team every week. But certainly, in some ways, it felt fast. The first half of the season felt real fast because Nashville was winning all the time and you couldn't wait to get to another game. The second half of the season, Nashville wasn't winning very often and it felt like every loss lasted forever. But I will say that this is one of the more fun start to season to end of season runs that Nashville has had in terms of enjoyable to watch over the course of a whole season. I think that this Nashville season might be honestly the only thing that probably competes with it is 2019 in terms of being enjoyable week in and week out. And obviously this is more enjoyable because there's a trophy in it and it's a higher level, but Nashville was more competitive this season, even than in 2021 where they didn't lose a home game. This felt like a more successful, more fun to watch, team. So I think week in and week out, this was the most fun that you could have at this level. I mean, it's unfair to grade against 2019. They were one of the best teams in the league and they, scored buckets of goals. So it's a bit different. You're in USL. It doesn't count as much, but yeah, this year, I didn't even hardly travel this year, but I had a lot of fun watching this team play and watching the growth of some players, unfortunately watching the decline of some others. But yeah, it was a pretty enjoyable start to finish. It's always more fun when your team wins most weeks.
Yeah, and I would say for me, the season felt like personally how I felt this entire year. I turned 30 this year, and life has been kind of going fast for me right now this year. It's been a lot of revelations and stuff. I know you both are younger than me, and people listening are gonna be like, "Oh, you're young, whatever." And some people will be listening and say, "You're too old," because I forgot to mention this, by the way, at the trophy celebration, someone stopped me, and sorry I forgot their name, but they said they listened every episode, and I think they were 12 or 13 years old. And I was like, you know what? I didn't think we had audience of that age. Thank you so much for saying that. And I think they were with their parent or something. So I forgot your name, but if it was you, thank you for that. So that said,
and I'm also sorry at the same time that you were influencing your 12 or 13-year-old child.
I don't. I say great things, and I'm never wrong.
Hey, it's better to listen to us than certain other podcasts that are influencing teenagers out there.
Absolutely, Clay.
we're giving them an education, just like school, But I would say, like, for me, this year just has been, I don't know how to describe this well, but it's like a long season that went by fast. Like, it
Yeah.
was like, I don't know
Well,
if
there were
that any
so
of this
many
makes sense.
things. There were so many things that happened, and like Valer, you can kind of. I think when you and Ben were kind of talking about forming something, like I particularly feel like I don't know if it would have happened if it wasn't for this season. If it wasn't for the changes and the rebuild and all that stuff kind of going on. Like if you guys were covering the same, team that you did the past season, do you think you would have formed 615 soccer in the same way?
I The formation might have been the same, but the reaction would have been different, I think. I think the
Yeah.
reaction of folks subscribing and folks getting involved is a great sign of what this team has provided this city, which is a different, the BJ Callahan era certainly brought in an exciting new prospect and something for fans to hang on to and go to games and be excited about. And you know, we have received some of those fruits because what we do and what we provide.
Well, so and I wanted to set both of you guys up, just kind of talking positively throughout the season. Like we obviously last, the week the playoffs happened, but overall, I think we can say that it was a good to great season for Nashville SC in this multi-year rebuild. I want you both to think of one particular positive, to at least start out. And Clay, is there one positive for you? Not, and I think Open Cup is way too easy, so I'm going to say no. Don't think about that
Yeah,
one.
I so yeah, that's limiting. I do also, just to throw you off here just for a second. I do want to build on what Valer just said, because I do think that this season, which is weird to say in a year where attendance is lower than it's been in several years, was like a celebration of soccer culture in Nashville. And so, like, I think like people understood the game in a way that we haven't seen over the course of the whole year. Obviously, we launch a media company that has a pretty successful first year. Nashville wins a trophy. Nashville wins the Nerd Trophy, and people know about it. Like, there are lots of things, and it felt more inclusive. Like, soccer was talked about at, like, my work. I work in a library. There are multiple people that keep up week to week. So I do think, like, in terms of soccer culture in Nashville, like, this was as good a year as Nashville's had since I've been here. And kind of related to that, and this is what I think is the big positive, is that Nashville showed that they could play an entertaining style that resulted in wins. And that's hard to do. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Well, I'll be happy if the team is losing 4-3 instead of losing 1-0." And I was like, "No, you'll still be mad." And so, like, you have to be able to win first for people to be excited. But
Yep.
to win and play in an entertaining way really brings in a lot of buy-in that maybe Nashville wasn't getting, despite winning at a pretty good rate for several years. And so the idea that it's hard to figure that side of it out, and it seems like Nashville has figured that side of it out, which means that the possibilities going forward are really, really exciting, for a club that does play in the largest soccer specific stadium in the country.
Steven, I want you to go ahead and give your positive before I give mine because I feel like mine is going to cover a lot of different positives.
That's fair. I kind of have two, but I think I'll just give my one that's like a little bit more specific to Nashville instead of just an overall. And then maybe after you finish, I can just tie on to top of yours. I think the fact that the focus the focus on youth was extremely positive from a Nashville SC perspective. Like I don't even and where that's going. I think being able to bring up Huntsville players to play for Nashville SC, I think seeing players like Wyatt Meyer and Matthew Corcoran like actually able to, break into our first team and not just provide basic roles, provide, playoff starting specific roles. Um, being able to invest in some of these players like Ahmed Qasim and Jonathan Perez that moving, the needle from what Nashville was as one of the oldest teams to being more younger. And then, obviously with what we're predicting when it comes to Nashville moving more towards a 2 designated player with 4 U22 style slot, roster space, the way that this team is moving towards a younger style of play is exciting and giving that exciting style of soccer in Nashville. So I think that's one of the major positives, specifically from Nashville SC, that I think. But I also have, I'll let you go next, Flair.
The weird thing is that Nashville are the second oldest team in MLS. However, what you're saying is 100% correct, is that they did give a lot of opportunities to younger players. But in terms of like the entire roster, there are some now, your Joe Willis and Till Bunburys of the world are probably pulling a little bit more on the
Skewing
30
the average
side.
a little bit.
Yeah. But yes, overall, this is the youngest Nashville has looked in terms of, the focus. So I totally agree with that one. But I think my point and my one positive that I was going to bring up, and then I realized it kind of ties all these together, what you said, Steven, and what you said, Clay, and some other stuff that I'm going to add, is that BJ Callahan is the guy. That's the biggest positive of this. Going after 2024, after those 10 games, we saw glimpses of what BJ Callahan can provide. We saw some ideas. I was very impressed when I first talked to him. I think I came on this show and told you guys and told the people listening, like, okay, he seems like a really knowledgeable dude. But there's difference between like in theory and then like you're leading the club literally from the bottom up and you're responsible for all these different areas and including the players on the pitch. And what BJ Callahan has brought to Nashville is exciting soccer, which is Clay's positive, has brought in youth sort of focus, which is what Steven positive, and he's brought out the best out of Hani Mukhtar after 2 fairly disappointing seasons from the former MVP. I mean, Hani Mukhtar is never too disappointing. Even in his worst season, he's still the best Nashville player. But let's look at 2024 and 2023 Hani and compare him to 2025 Hani. It's night and day. And him being able to and he got, a golden boot contender in Sam Surridge to be firing as well. So I think maybe this is like an easy cop-out answer, but I think a lot of this, if not all of it, comes on for what BJ Callahan provides this team, which is believe in themselves, believe in the system, and creating that system for these players to flourish. And I think that's the biggest thing to come out of 2025.
I also think the question that is related to that is not just that BJ Callahan is the guy; it's that Mike Jacobs is the guy.
And that was going to be my exact second thing. Is I don't even think it's just I think the plan is on track.
I think it was a fairly open question whether or not Nashville could navigate a rebuild. I mean, Jacobs did an unbelievable job, building Nashville into, one of those years being a true MLS Cup contender in 2021. But like that next phase was an open question. I mean, they were struggling with international signings. They were struggling on the youth side. Some of this, of course, is on Gary Smith, but like they're struggling proving that they could build this team from they could build a team from scratch, but could they build on a team that pre-existed? And I don't think anybody really knew. And I think that there was a lot that was riding on Jacobs this season with a new coach, with a new approach, whether that would all work. And not only does it work, like they've hit so well on some of these Scandinavian guys that other teams in MLS are now like, oh, we need to be looking at that league to build our roster. And that is a sign of what's the Gretzky thing, like you go where the puck is going to be, not where it is. Like that's
I believe Michael Scott said that.
No, that was the 100% of shots you don't take. But I butchered the line, but that is a sign of someone who is knowing exactly and identifying places to still, take full advantage of a market, like to have a full understanding of how things work. And so I think like when you take the Callahan side of it, I think that it was a really big win just for the technical staff at Nashville SC as a whole. Callahan, Jacobs, scouting department, Huntsville, the academy. Like, there are lots of big wins that Nashville hasn't felt the success of yet. If things continue as they are.
Well, and then and I still think there's also a big enough fire lit under, these folks specifically to continue the job because there's also a let's be honest type of thing. We're back to where we were when we started MLS. We're back to being a low-level playoff team that exits early. Is this the squad and the job that can help us win an MLS championship? That's going to be up to Mike Jake. I have thoughts that they can, but it's going to be something that Mike Jacobs and BJ are going to be thinking about the entire time.
But I will say this is the most positive Nashville SC has been going into a new season since probably 2021, and only 2021 will rival the vibe of coming into the new season. Because after 2021, they got really close with the Union and lost in penalties. But everybody was saying, "Oh, next year with one or two additions, Nashville's going to be a contender, right?" But then they weren't.
Hany still won the Golden Boot the next year, so
And
and
Hany won the Golden Boot,
yeah.
and they still weren't a real contender in the West, to be fair. But I think now you're looking at a team that is going to be a contender, even without the one or two additions, to be honest with you. But obviously Nashville, and we're getting into this, so this is a good segue, they're going to lose some players, whether it's due to age or contract or combination of both. So they are going to need those one or two additions. And that's what's going to take them to the next level, is Mike Jacobs being able to hit on those newer additions that are gonna most likely replace some of the guys we've been covering, guys, for 6 years. We've been covering some of these guys since the inception of this team. One of whom we've been covering since the 2018 season. So it's a lot of replacements, a lot of work, and there was a lot of work happening this past offseason, but I would wager that there's just as much, if not more, work happening these upcoming 2 months. So it's a huge offseason coming up.
A lot of players out of contract, a lot of younger players that have made their impression that deserve the playing time into the first team. A lot of stuff to figure out from a depth perspective. And let's talk about looking for 2026. Obviously, roster decisions normally have to happen within a week of the season ending for the team per MLS rules. Now, normally, those aren't announced within that week, I believe. They can be announced whatever time they want by the team. But the way that Nashville has kind of started operating from that, we expect those decisions to happen kind of quickly. Obviously, there are a few players that are not under contract that, will be talked about. Walker Zimmerman probably being the biggest one. I think Chris Ivey just put out a fantastic article on 615soccer.com about his predictions and all of that type of stuff for roster decisions and what to expect kind of going forward. I think a lot of it is just going to be the way that Nashville does kind of reshape themselves and a lot of that hinges on what happens to Walker Zimmerman. I want to have a little bit of fun with it. I think there's a lot to be able to have. There's easy decisions that we kind of expect to happen. I can kind of expect Teal Bunbury not to be on the roster next season. I think that's one that I can kind of expect.
I don't.
Yeah,
I could.
He's
totally
cheap and he does a very specific job.
Do either of you have just based on the predictions, just based on what's happening with the roster, do either of you have a roster decision hot take?
Oh, this is the Dave Romney call that I had a few years ago.
Yeah,
we're talking about just roster decisions, not like trades and stuff like that, right?
I think he's saying, is there a move that nobody expects that we expect Nashville, like an Alistair Johnson getting traded or Dave Romney getting traded?
Yeah, is there like a roster decision hot take where it could have been somebody that was integral to this season won't be on the roster next year?
Can I tell you my take and you tell me if it's hot or not?
Yes.
Okay. Jacob Schaffelberg will not be a Nashville SC player in 2026.
That's not hot. I'll take it. I think it fits for this. Okay. I think it's a big enough thing where it fits, but I don't think it's a hot take.
Okay, if that's fair.
I don't know. we've like talked ourselves into so much of this roster changeover. So this might here we go. Both
He's
Jack
cooking.
Mayer and Walker Zimmerman won't be on Nashville's roster next year.
Wow.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, that is a hot take, I would say.
Hey, he asked for a hot one. I'm just saying Walker I can't see, and Jack costs a lot of money.
And that's the reason why I think Jack Mayer will be on Nashville's roster next year, because I don't see many teams picking up that paycheck for what
I could see some people valuing him in that way, though, as a consistent style center back.
Randall Leal was on $1 million a year.
Yeah, but Nashville paid that, and DC only paid $100,000.
I'm just saying a team will pay less than $1 million for Jack Mayer, and if Nashville needs a slot, that opens up a lot of space.
Maybe I don't understand, but I think if given the opportunity to trade Jack Mayer, Nashville would take that. And maybe I don't understand. Maybe they value him higher. Like I said, he is still in center back years, kind of young. Now he is a veteran at this point. He's been playing in the league for 6 years. I'm not sugarcoating it. And he's not a bad player. I don't want to be like totally against it. I'm just saying, like, I feel like for what he would cost for Nashville to let go of him, and for what he cost the team he would be going to, I find it hard to believe that someone in MLS would take that hit. That's all I'm saying.
My only thing is that there are ways of that being handled where he doesn't cost Nashville as much to write off, and a team in MLS is getting him at a discount. But what I do not think that that's going to happen. But Steven asked for a hot take, and I submitted a hot take, and you said this guy that's been trying to get away for a year might not be here next year.
He's not trying to get away for a year. Don't spread that. I think
rumored to get away for a year.
Can I have mine?
Steven, I feel like you asked that because you have a really hot one. So go ahead.
I think I do have a hot take. So I think I see a shift in the way that BJ runs the team where it's more wing dominant. I think he does have the ability to want to have a little bit more wing play involved. And with that, I think it's a positive. I think it is possible that your boy, Alex Muyl, is not on the roster next year or is more of a bench player next year.
Okay, I keep forgetting because there are 13 players out of contract or options. Where is he on that?
I think he has an option for 20. I think he's on option right now for 26, but they're potentially looking to extend his contract. I don't know. Is he going to be? He had a good season, but is he going to be looking for more money because of that? I don't know.
With the option year, I would almost put my house that he will be renewed on that option.
Yeah,
I would say that option will be picked up. I don't think there's anything more guaranteed on this roster than Alex Muyl's option being picked up. Let me just go ahead and say. And if I'm wrong, you know what? Clip this. Let's go. I don't care. I don't think there's anything
which
more
is why I made it a hot take.
Yeah, it is hot.
Hey,
though.
I will say
that's hot.
I will say that my take is also informed by the possibility of Nashville signing a center back out of. I'm spacing on his name. I should be more prepared, but
he's out of Norway. Who cares?
Yeah, but I do think. All right. So, are we going to let Valer skate on Schaffelberg, who's been rumored for a move away for a year? Or are we
I'm going to let Valer skate. I'm going to let Valer skate on it.
Because saying we're losing two center backs, saying Alex Muyl is gone, which is that's one of the crazier things Steven has said on the show, which is saying a lot. Saying Schaffelberg is pretty lightweight, Valer.
Okay. I mean, no, that's not a hot take either. I'm not good at this.
I have another one. I actually have a pretty good one. I have another one. Okay. I could see an Eddie Tagstaff or a Patrick Yazbek trade.
Trade? Like within MLS?
Yeah.
No way. That's just wrong. I don't see that happening. I know
it's about to try and get you to say something.
Say something.
Yeah. Okay. I would say there is a chance with Okay, yeah, this is my hot take. I've formulated it just now. I think there's a chance with the cash for option within MLS teams where you can offer a team cash money to take a player from them. I think there's a chance that somebody comes knocking for Hani Mukhtar. Whether or not they pay enough for Nashville to let him go. Last year we saw the Luciano Acosta, Evander circle triangle thing with the guy that Portland the Di Costa who Portland were trying to get from a French side. Luciano Acosta went for 5 million last year to Dallas, who he was older than Hani Mukhtar and had similar season to Hani Mukhtar, let's say. So I don't know if somebody comes into
That's
Nashville
a
and
good
offers
one,
him.
Blair.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
mean, if somebody's looking for a 10 and comes into Nashville and says, "Here's 10 million," I don't know. I don't know if anybody's going to do that, but I mean, I with this, you're getting a not only a guaranteed sort of player who's been a legend in Nashville, but you're getting somebody who's won MVP and got close to that level for most of his seasons within this league. I don't know if he would go. He has a young family. We always talk about that, right? He loves it here, I think. So but if I was to you forced me to come up with a hot take, and this is it.
That's a good one.
Not
Better
only
than
not only does
mine.
Hani love it here, he's wearing a Titans hat this season, um, which I think says a lot. Here's another one for you, a free one that I do not believe at all, but I'm going with. Teal Bunbury scores more goals next year for Nashville than he did this year.
It would be one, right?
Yeah.
Also hot take. All right, that's enough hot takes. Look,
Yeah, that could also be own goals for another team that he is on that also has scored against Nashville.
That's
So
the
you know
reason
what I mean?
Steven's smiling, because he loves a prediction like that, because he
I
loves the
do.
idea of
It
it
is
being an
good.
own goal.
but one thing I do want to note that next year, just so there's gonna be the roster decisions that will go out, right? That doesn't mean those players are staying in Nashville. That doesn't mean those players aren't being traded or sold or whatever. It also doesn't mean that Nashville will now bring in more players. So be careful when you see the roster decision. It doesn't just mean this is the final
And
roster.
Agree. And like the one that everybody like, I think it's going to be seen that Walker Zimmerman is out of contract with Nashville SC. That is going to be a roster decision that you see. That doesn't mean Walker Zimmerman is not coming back. It just means his DP contract is done. If he does come back to Nashville, it's because of the fact that they need to work a new deal. But I also guarantee you he's probably going to shop a little bit to try and figure
well,
out where he's going to be.
Josh Bauer was really like his roster was up and he was brought back.
Yeah.
And
So like we
played a very
won't.
big role this year.
So hopefully we get those roster decisions before next week because it would be nice to talk about those next week when it comes to that. We'll have roster additions. I don't even know when the transfer window starts for Nashville SC for MLS, but I know it's sometime in the offseason. We also need to bring up, because we won the Open Cup, CONCACAF Champions Cup, Nashville does qualify. We do get the draw results for that, I believe, in December. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a knockout tournament, so it's like Nashville had Mocha a couple of years ago.
And I'm going to hold off on that. That is my prediction for the end of the show of
Okay.
what Central
Where
American
does
country,
Nashville go?
what Central American country we're going to be at. So let's hold off on that. We do have to talk about some Nashville players, though, in international duty, as well as some other stuff in the MLS playoffs and MLS soccer, in local soccer. We'll do that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer, at PharmaSoccer again on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, of course, 615soccer.com, spell it out, and pharmasoccer.com for all of your merchandise needs. Go buy your merchandise. Even though we are in the middle of MLS playoffs, we have an MLS international break because that makes a lot of sense for just the season in general. How long does this international break only last like 1 week, though, correct? It's just a friendly kind of 1 week thing.
No, there's going to be World Cup qualifiers in it.
Oh, there is.
But
Okay.
not for everyone. Yeah, some friendlies, some World Cup qualifiers. So for the CONCACAF teams, they're all playing World Cup qualifiers. Well, the ones related to Nashville, obviously U.S., Canada, Mexico have already qualified. But Brian Acosta and Andy Nahar both got called up to the Honduras national team. They have big World Cup qualifying games, 2 games going on. So Andy Nahar has been a very important player for them. Brian Acosta has been in and out of squads, but he has made 70 caps for the Honduras team. So it's not like, he's not an important player either. So that's going to be going on for Honduras. Ruben Pacius, who I know we don't talk about as much, he scored 14 goals in the USL Championship for the Tampa Bay Rowdies. Nashville, he's under contract in Nashville SC. Obviously, he was on loan for the Rowdies. He has been called up to the Haitian national team, also to play a World Cup qualifying games. So that's gonna be pretty interesting there. I think former Nashville player Fafa Pico will also be with the Haitian team. So little connection there. And then Xavier Valdez for the Dominican Republic. They'll be playing a couple of friendlies. So less important, but he is generally been the starting goalkeeper for the Dominican Republic, and he already has 19 caps for them. So a chance for him to get in action again. And then lastly is 18-year-old and homegrown player Chris Applewhite, who was called up to the United States under-19s. They're gonna play a couple games. 3 games actually: Germany, Wales, and Japan. So pretty good sort of place. They are playing in the UEFA sort of tournament thing there, so it's a different thing for them for the U19. But pretty big chance for Chris Applewhite to establish himself, I think, with the younger youth groups and maybe even get in a couple of years get a senior call up. But he's been trending positively since he got his contract with Nashville SC.
Also, a big sort of MLS playoffs matches that did happen. Hey, MLS, I really hope you learned something throughout this time, that it should just be elimination games in the playoffs, because that's what's extremely exciting. Why the hell did we have like multiple 2-game series just to go to these elimination games? I don't get it. I know we complain about it every single, the couple year that they've had this format, but it's been the elimination games that have mattered thoroughly. That Sounders Minnesota match was fantastic. Wild match specifically. New York giving the business to Charlotte was wild, especially away. Was there any match that really stood out to you guys? Any series that you paid attention to a lot of?
I did like the San Diego Portland series simply
Valero loves
because
San Diego. He always loves San Diego.
He does. I predicted, if that's my
I knew he was going to talk
prediction.
about San Diego when you asked that.
Okay, I'm getting attacked here for answering a question that I was asked. Because my favorite series was Seattle, Minnesota, simply because of that game 3. But Steven had already talked about it, so I'll go San Diego, Portland, because Portland is chaos and not in a good way, and it's hilarious to watch. But the fact that they stumbled upon a game 3 somehow and then got destroyed in this game 3 was pretty fun. And then I think there were a couple series that were not as fun to watch from a neutral perspective, but I'm sure those fans enjoyed them. Especially to me, like the New York Charlotte thing, just because like I feel like Philly too. Like I bet Philly fans really enjoyed just destroying the Fire in 2 games. The first one went to penalties at home, which was like a weird thing that they gave up 2 late goals. But I just think that would resonate. My worry here is that Philly and Vancouver and LAFC, who ended their series with 2 games, they don't play another game 3 weeks. So 3 weeks rest to go into the conference semifinal, and the people who did play 3 games, get 2 weeks rest. So I don't know. Is this going to be a benefit? History tells us generally no when you sit for 3 weeks, but these teams are really good. So I'm excited, man. This is very exciting for anybody who keeps up with the league even a little bit. And I would say if you're a Nashville fan and don't really keep up with the MLS playoffs, this is your chance. There's only a few games left, and I think Clay and I said it last week too. It's going to be really exciting.
And I'll give Clay the ability to answer this before he goes into his local soccer roundup. Clay, is there one conference semifinal, one match out of the 4 that you were most excited for?
Well, first off, I'm not going to have a local soccer roundup because I already gave it.
We did it, yeah.
That's true.
So, I mean, this isn't really like an excited thing, but because I kind of am rooting for a meteor. But Cincinnati and Miami is a hate watch spectacle for NSC fans.
That is a literal hate watch spectacle. It
Um,
is specifically a hate watch.
and I do think that this is like an interesting thing because I definitely feel it. I think even the old guard NSC fans whose hate for Cincinnati is placed in, in 2017, 2018 are rooting for Cincinnati in this game because of the way that the Miami 4-game series played out.
I'm rooting for
Um,
none of them.
which is crazy. And I find it interesting. So I guess that's the most interesting one to me because I'm very curious how a lot of NSC fans fall on it. So I'm gonna go with that. I also think it's kind of fun that it feels like there's enough lore between Miami, Nashville, Cincinnati, and Atlanta, and to a lesser extent Charlotte. But it feels like there have been things that have been developed over the years in a very real way, and so it's just fun for me. I think I'll be rooting for Cincinnati, as weird as that is to say, but I think I'd much prefer like an earthquake happens like directly in the middle of both
Oh,
stadiums.
absolutely.
Everyone survives, but the team dies.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my god.
He's
I'm
got a point, Flair.
considering my status and where I'm at in this country. I hope no one dies. I hope everybody's
No, I
happy.
said I don't mean actual people. I mean I'm making a joke about the
Uh,
organization that I don't
and
mean,
I
of
was
course.
making a joke about my status in the country because situations are pretty bad at the moment. All right, let's wrap it up. Am I right?
Let's wrap it up. Vancouver LAFC seems like a really fun one-off match for me. I think, especially with the additions that they've had in Thomas Muller and Valera's favorite player's son. Like, I'm sure it'll be very fun to watch that match, in my opinion. But as I preluded to the last segment, Nashville doesn't have a match this week coming up, but we will have a Champions Cup coming up in December when it comes to having a draw. So, our predictions to end the show with plugs. Where is Nashville going to play its CONCACAF Champions Cup? And where are we taking a trip to? I've done it with Valaire. Do I get to do it with Clay? Clay, where are we going?
Okay. So, first off, this is very self-serving. You can follow me at Clay Lessel on Twitter and Instagram. Check out National Soccer Archive. If you have anything you want to donate to the National Soccer Archive, please let me know. We are building it out at Vanderbilt's University Special Collections in the library. Very excited to have anything that you would like to add to the collection. We would love it. That being said, so for those of you that are keeping up with the Central American Cup, which you should be, because 6 teams out of that cup go into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. The final will be between Alajuelense out of Costa Rica and Xelajú. I may be saying that wrong, but Xelajú out of Guatemala. And my hope is that we're going to watch Xelajú versus Nashville SC in Guatemala. Their nickname is the Super Chivos. They are actually not one of the big like Guatemala City clubs in Guatemala, and obviously we have family ties to Guatemala, so that is where I want to go with Nashville SC and CONCACAF Champions Cup, and that's where we're going to go.
Dang, that's where we're going. Okay.
That's where we're going.
Valaire.
Thank you for that, Clay. I would love to go to Guatemala. I've never been to Guatemala. Um,
One of their other nicknames is El Gigante Departamental, which means the departmental giant.
Hey, that's good. I am. You can follow me at Valer Shabila on a bunch of different places. So please do that and subscribe to 615 Soccer. I think Nashville SC will be playing the mighty Canadian Premier League champion Atletico Ottawa in Ottawa, and I've never been to Ottawa, and I would maybe consider going. I don't know, but let's make it interesting. We're always looking south. Let's look north for once. That's my take here.
And I think, because I think okay, here's my prediction. We are going to play the third place Caribbean CONCACAF Caribbean Cup winner, which happens November 25th. By the way, I just learned this in my research. We are going to be playing Defense Force FC in Trinidad and Tobago for our CONCACAF Champions Cup match.
Trinidad and Tobago.
I'm all good to go to Trinidad and Tobago.
I am as well.
They got good cricket there too.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Trinidad and Tobago is one of the few, pretty much the only Caribbean country that doesn't rely on travel and tourism as their main revenue thing.
No, didn't know that. Thank you, Valer, for that insight very much.
It's also almost in South America.
But it's considered a Caribbean country if you read about it. Yeah.
No, it is, because that's the reason Suriname and Guyana. Yeah, they're in South America, but they are Caribbean.
Oh, wait, I forgot to mention, in the off season, this is going to be a geography show because there's no Nashville Soccer. So tune in if you would like.
You guys, by the way, are playing in some sort of game that I have not. We haven't played it yet because Valer got his game and Steven got his game, and now it's my turn, and we haven't done it yet. So,
yeah, no, waiting for that. Clay, please be thinking about that one. Sorry that this is a longer episode. There was a lot to cover, especially with the end of the season. We're hoping roster decisions happen next week. We do plan on being back next week, no matter what. I think we'll probably take a Thanksgiving Day break, but next week we do plan on being back to cover a little bit more off-season stuff. If there's anything that you want to ask about the offseason or roster decisions, please make sure you go on the Discord mailbag and ask it. Help us fill the show a little bit. We'd love to answer those questions. But thank you, as always, for listening to the show. If you've been with us for the 300 episodes that we've done it as well, seriously, thank you. Thank you so much. We still can't believe that we've done this show for 300 episodes.
I meant to do this earlier, but on that note, thank you to obviously Mason, who right before we started recording, producer Mason poked his head in unknowingly to tell Valer it was snowing, which was very helpful.
Yeah, it's snowing.
And then we got to give a shout out to Angelo, or many of the other names that he had on this show.
Absolutely.
We got to give a huge shout out to Tim Sullivan and producer Lily, who were a huge part of this show for maybe 100 of those episodes.
Yep.
And now he's doing his own thing with Wes over at Club and Country. There's been so many people that we've talked to over the years that listen to us and tell us this, and I think it always throws us off a little bit when they say that they're a fan of us.
And current producers Omari and Joel as well. Thank you.
Of course,
much for everything you do.
I was getting
going down the line, Valer. Jesus.
I'm just wrapping it up. It's already been a long episode,
All right, Valer has turned into Steven and wants me to wrap it up. So I'm just gonna
I know this is the one time where I'm like, look, it's a longer episode. Who cares?
I'm sorry for showing gratitude to those that have shown us gratitude along the way, Valer. His ego, Steven.
It's ridiculous. And you know what? Just to make it a little bit longer, I want to thank the two of you. Honestly, doing this for 300 episodes, the fact that we've been able to move, grow different leagues, the fact that we've been able to continue this still has been awesome. So thank you for the both of you.
Thanks,
really
Steven.
Appreciate you guys.
All right. Are we good now? I gotta eat, man. My food has been waiting here for 2 two segments, man.
I thought he was about to say 2 centuries. All right, thank you guys so much for listening to the show. We appreciate it. We'll be back next week for episode 301. Maybe Valera will be a little bit more nice to us then. Who knows? Thank you again so much for listening to the show. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of your week.